Welcome to PTG TV. This is your host, Antonio Hicks, Mr. AKA Escaping the Matrix. In this episode of Real Talk and Conversation, let's talk about this conservative Supreme Court and the crap that they've been doing. And I hate to make this episode, but first and foremost, I know I've been AWOL for a second. I had to take a mental break. And I just been busy with stuff and just life just been life. And it's like I've always said in my other podcasts that it's just me. I'm a one-man show. I do everything, and I have a business I've been trying to run as well too. On top of that, and so for this past couple of weeks, man, I just been relaxing and chilling, going in and out of town. And of course, we had Father's Day, so I had to celebrate that. My kid came down from Michigan with his mom and her partner, and they were headed down to Florida. So it's like I just been lifing. Now I'm back because I do want to talk about this. I don't want to talk about it, but I do want to talk about it because I feel like this is something that I've been addressing for a while when it comes to like racial discrimination, especially when it comes to black people. Because I mean, other races are discriminated and Hispanic people. It's other races are discriminated against. But it's like, across this country and across this world, the people that you normally see get punched in the face all the time is typically black people. And that's not no opinion. That's just generally what it is. I mean, you can look at any country and see what's going on within that country. I don't even care if it's in Australia. You can look at any country and see the discrimination taking place. God said his own people are going to be persecuted until he come back. And it's always generally black people. Now, I'm one of those people that because I always talk about me being an engineer. I'm probably going to stop talking about it. So to me, it started to sound redundant. But anyway, I'm like, I'm under the strong belief that we should get past racial discrimination against any discrimination, period. We should get past religious discrimination, people, and just judging people based on anything so we can focus towards the next evolution of humanity. And it's like we're on this precipice of talking about, aliens and beings from other planets or, universes coming here. And I'm like, we can't even solve our own problems. Humans are always fighting. We're always at war with one another. We're trying to kill one another. And yet we want to talk with other beings of other different species of beings, I guess, for them to be our new savior and for us to have this unified front to either attack them or, ask them to help us out. And to me, it's frustrating because I don't understand why we would do anything to prevent people from moving ahead. I don't care, what it's about. I don't care if it's your religious beliefs. I don't care it's who you lie in bed with. None of those things matter to me outside of age differences. None of those things really matter to me. That's a totally different thing. But you talking about pedophilia and stuff like that. That's something totally different. What I'm talking about is discrimination itself. Is the stuff that we've been, especially with these conservatives that's been out there lately, especially these Christian conservatives that's been out there, because the whole narrative have always been, I spoke about this other podcast, and I'm not trying to get on a rant. I'm just trying to really highlight some of the stuff that you can really see that it really is racist. Is, they were so focused on talking about when 45 was in office that Muslim community was a big problem, and nobody wants to see this Jari law, whatever it is, taking place. I'm thinking about Jari from the Rucho, but anyway, they don't want to see any of those things taking place over in this country. But yet and still, they get into office and they're pushing this whole Christian narrative, like, as if to say that everybody in this country are Christians. So it's like, how can you have borders open to people coming to this country legally of different ethnicities and background and religious beliefs, but when you get here, they want you to adhere to their own Christian religious beliefs, and they want to, spew this lie that this country was founded on Christian. It really wasn't, because I'm like, you really don't understand history and how we want to pull ourselves away from the rule of the doggone church, which is why we, was over here in the first place, outside of stealing other people's land. And that's a totally different topic because, well, I guess it does kind of fall in line with this right here, because how can you say that we shouldn't have open borders, but this country was founded and occupied on land that was already owned by other people? Even people, the southern border, I'm like, those people literally are that land belonged to them. And you can say we shouldn't have open borders. Well, who should we open the border to? Because you make the system so hard for anybody to get legally into this country, and you outsource almost all the work. It's like, well, who should it be open up to? So, it's like the conservatives that's on the Supreme Court now, people are really backing them. Well, not everybody's backing them, But I'm trying to understand, as to why. So, and here's the thing that's just the kicker for me is that I wish the people that supported those narratives, I wish they would come forward like in your workplaces, because I'm like, if that's what you believe, that's what you believe, right? So why should you hide behind your keyboards and the computer screens and your phones and stuff and not be truthful what it is? And I mean, you might feel as though that, you might get persecuted, but if that's just how you feel, that's just how you feel. I mean, I don't like everything, and I'm like, my feelings are my feelings, especially when it comes to corporate America. And I mean, I'm gonna talk about this in this discussion itself too, but even still, I put my stuff out there to a degree. Well, I mean, to a degree, I put my stuff out there because I get we live in this whole. It is a cancel culture thing. Like, you really can't do nothing without the Internet of Things coming after you. Like, people really come after you without even having a whole story. They'll try to get you fired from your job. But I wish those that supported those type of policies would actually come forward within the community and within the workplace, because if you are in agreement with some of the stuff that the judges are doing and what these elected officials are doing across many states in this country, especially when it comes to book banning, but you work around black people and you work around people in the Spanish community and you work around the LGBT plus community people. So if those are your peers and those are your coworkers, or those are the people that live right next to you, how would you feel how would you think they would feel if you came out and told them what you supported and what you believed in? Because now you're looking at me and you want me to work with you knowing that you're full of hate. Because at the end of the day, I don't understand why we don't just live our lives without the concern of what's taking place around, because nobody's trying to indoctrinate your children. Matter of fact, you're the one indoctrinating children, because children don't grow up to be racist. You teach them to be racist. Children are not born racist. You teach them to be racist. You teach them to hate a group of people. You teach them to hate people's religious beliefs. Like, you will say that if you're not of a Christian belief, or you don't believe in Jesus, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, that you're going straight to hell. That is a form of discrimination. You can teach them about what your religious beliefs are without condemning somebody else's. But that's what you teach. You indoctrinate your kids to have that hate built into them. That's not something that they have in them themselves. And that's like when you come to the Supreme Court and some of the things that they've done recently. Well, I can't even say recently. Over the past a couple of years, it's like they struck down, actually here in Georgia too, is Boston versus Clayton. And this was done back in 2020. The court ruled that Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibits employment discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, also prohibits discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. They struck that down. They struck down in this not Roe. I mean, they did do Roe versus Wade. But Rucho versus the Common Cause in 2019, the court ruled that the federal courts do not have the power to strike down partisan gerrymandering, which is the practice of drawing electoral districts. I mean, y'all know what gerrymandering is. And then in 2013, Shelby County versus Holder, the court struck down a key provision of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which requires certain states with a history of racial discrimination to obtain pre-clearance from the federal government before making changes to their voting laws. So and then you have the book bannings, and then even down in Florida, where they're trying to keep education institutions from teaching certain things, but everything always comes back to black people. And I'm trying to understand, how is it that you're doing everything that you do is always in regards to black people? And I'm that's what really baffles me the most. And I hate talking about this because I don't want everything to always be about race all the time. And that's what people will say, well, y'all make everything about race. No, I can't make it. I don't make up everything about race, because the fact that you keep attacking us because of race, like this whole affirmative action thing. Like, what was the reason? I'm getting this like stuck in my head now, because I saw Alvin Preach talking about it yesterday with people using like all the time. It's one of the habits. I've listened to it so much now. I feel like I'm starting to say it, and I got to catch myself. But anyway, the Supreme Court struck down affirmative action, and to say that it's not needed, and it's like, well, why do you think it's not needed? Like, even today, what reason would you believe that something of that nature is not needed, because I still see it in my workplace. I mean, you can tell me about diversity and inclusion, but I don't see that in my, even in my own personal workplace, and other people's workplaces as well too. I mean, when you look across this country and you look and see who's in the high level positions versus who in the low level positions, it's not minorities. Well, it is minorities, but it's not the ones from this country. I'll put it like that. It is not the ones from this country that you see in those high level positions. You don't see hardly any Black Americans unless you're working in HR or you're working in not even marketing. You don't see a ton of Black Americans in high level positions, or any Hispanics in high level executive positions. I don't see that. I've never seen it in my corporate career. I mean, even when I look across other countries, I don't necessarily see that. I see a lot of Indian people there, and it's not to say anything against the Indian community, but I do see a lot of Indian people there. And I guess that's their way of saying, oh, they're diverse because they have a ton of Indian people or Asians Americans or Asians up there in high level positions. I don't see Black people and I don't see Hispanic people. And I'm not saying that you should give us a pass and move us up there. I think it should go towards a qualified candidate. But I'm tired of hearing the BS of where there aren't any qualified candidates or people with the skill sets to be in some of these positions. And I call bullshit on that all the time, because I'm like, you can look at any education institution, and look at who's graduating from these, and look at the degrees that's coming from all these institutions. And matter of fact, I work in the IT space, so I see all these certifications they have out there, and I see a ton of Black people getting some of these IT certifications or project management certifications. And I'm like, so you can't tell me that you don't have any individual that's qualified to be in those high level spaces, because if that's the case, why are you going to seek people outside of this country? I mean, that's my frustration too, is, everybody is given the benefit of doubt except for the ones that's actually from here. So, because affirmative action was started back in 1961, and it was really based on a discrimination that was taking place between Hispanic people, women, and Black Americans. And it's really, the purpose of it was to open up educational institutions to allow in, those that have been discriminated against in this country, which have been women, Hispanics, and Black Americans. So to me, when I even hear women talk about how they need to get rid of affirmative actions, I was like, you benefited from, especially white women, you benefited from affirmative action being put into place. It helped you to get those high level jobs. It helped you to get promoted into some of those positions. And I get, you are still sexualized in the workplace. I get the whole discrimination when it comes to you. And if you're not doing certain things, I have seen those things, sexual harassment. I have seen those things myself firsthand. We'll get some of my own friends it has happened to. I understand it 100%. But still, at the end of the day, because of this, you are up in those high level positions that you didn't have prior to that. So to even come out and say, well, it's not even needed anymore, it's one of those things that it just really agitates me and it pisses me off. And then to say, okay, well, why do we even still need that today? Because we're starting to see some Black Americans, they are successful. So you see a handful of Black Americans that are successful. So now all of us are successful. Like all of us are getting looked at for our qualifications and not because of the color of our skin. Hell, I even think, and this is just my own personal opinion, I don't have any data to support that I get double discriminated against because I have a Spanish name. Like if you look at my whole name and then when I put on there and I'm a Black American too, it's like I get double discriminated against. My name is literally a Spanish name, but at the end of the day, I'm a Black person. On top of it, you're 100% Black. So I really feel like some of the positions I applied for that I know I was qualified than those people that got hired for is because of, who I am. Now, do I have anything to support that? I don't. It's just a speculation. And I've been working in corporate America for over, like I always say, 20 something years, but I do believe without a shadow of a doubt, and yes, it's my own personal belief that I got discriminated against. Now, in doing this though, I really wanted to research like what would be some of the reasons why people will want to get rid of affirmative action. And a lot of the things that I was seeing online and in other reports is that because of affirmative action, there could be reverse race discrimination. and it's that white qualified white candidates couldn't get into school systems, and or they were being overlooked for jobs. But in seeing that opinion, because like I just said, I just believe something, it was my opinion. I don't have no data to support that. There is no data to support that. There is no data to support that at all. What data does support? As I take a sip of my coffee. So I looked at, because this is the belief, like with the whole, I forget what the chant was from that far right group, Blood and Soil, that white men felt like they were being replaced, and there is this hate against white men in this country. And I can see how they might see that to a certain degree. But when you look down to the data behind it, it is not true. If I look at the Fortune 500 companies that are out there right now, based on a 2020 report of all the Fortune 500 companies that exist within this country, 85.8% are ran by white men. 6.8% are ran by white women. 2.4% are ran by Asian men. 3.4% are ran by Hispanic men. 1% is ran by black men. And then 0.2% Native American men. And then 0.6% women of color. Now, if I look at that number in itself, 85.8% of all the Fortune 500 companies ran in this country are ran by white men. How are you being replaced? I mean, you control everything. You literally control everything in this country. You're elected officials. I mean, we got a white president. The ones that are running right now are predominantly white that are running for president right now. Look at your elected officials. They're white. So you got Fortune 500 companies. I can't talk today. They're ran by white men and white women. You have your elected officials that it's generally white people. How is this reverse thing? People are discriminating against white people. How? Because you are in the majority. You are in a majority. You make the policies that even affect us minorities. So how is it that you want to strike something down when we ourselves aren't even close to being a majority? Black men make up 1% of major Fortune 500 companies in this country. 1%. That's nothing. So all of us people that are qualified people, we are still going to work for a company that's ran by either a white man or a white woman. Hell, it didn't even include in Indian Americans, because I mean, you got one of the other tech companies, well, not one of them, two or three of them that are ran by Indian Americans or Indians. I mean, they're Americans now, but ran by Indians. So it's like, that's why I get frustrated at, and I try not to really. I really got tired of making shows about this, because I see so many people online talking about, the reverse racism, how people hate white people. And I'm like, I get it to a degree, because we're always going on a rant, and people use not even discrimination, racism a lot. That is just freely thrown out there. Everything is not racist. Everything is not racist. And I'm gonna say, as a black man that's from the South, everything is not racist. Sometimes it's prejudice, but everything isn't racist. And I have experienced a ton of racism being here in Georgia, And some of the things I know I do see a lot is that people now use it too freely. And, I don't understand why, but anyway, I can see why they would say that. But still, at the end of the day, I'm a data person, and I look at the numbers. The numbers don't support that argument. You might feel that way. And of course, we're all entitled to our own feelings. You might feel that way. But when you look at the actual numbers behind that, it ain't true. Like, at the end of the day, it's not true. Even when you look at who's in top leadership, 20% of senior leadership in the United States are women, and only 4% are black or African American. So it's like, the reason that their affirmative action even existed is to support and push for people to be included into those positions. Now, I'm not saying push unqualified individuals, because I know what it feels like to work for unqualified people and my own people. I know what that feels like, and it is terrible. It is terrible. But, I'm not saying that I wanted to be qualified individuals that get looked at for these jobs. I have personally seen where people did not get picked for a job because of, and they had the same qualifications. I don't know how it came down to why they picked the white guy over the black person, but at the end of the day, they had the same qualifications, and I saw they picked the white guy over the black person. Now it could be a tickle in their gut. They can like, oh, I want to work with that individual because of X, Y, and Z. And I don't know how you decide on that. I guess it would be an HR thing. You have to do a more stringent interview. But I have still seen that their racism still exists in these corporations. And I mean, with diversity, you get, more innovation when it comes, especially in these tech companies, you get more innovation because you have a diverse group of people that know how to think on some of the issues that we're focused on and what we need within our own personal communities, because that's really what it boils down to. You want to sell a product to the people that need it. And so we found that studies have shown that people that don't have diverse teams are more likely to miss out on new markets and new opportunities. I mean, we've seen that. Now, do I have an example of that right now? No, I don't. But, it happens. It happens. And what's got me is I try to look at who exactly benefited from affirmative action. Even thinking about this, like who exactly benefited from it? Of course, Black Americans, because policy helped to increase the number of Black Americans attending colleges and graduate school, and also led to an increase in the number of Black Americans in professional and managerial positions. Hispanic Americans, because this is what we talked about initially, what we said early on is that the whole focus of it was to help towards those that were discriminated against, which is women, Hispanic Americans, and Black Americans. So of course you're going to see that, but also it helped out with Native Americans. Policy helped to increase the number of Native Americans attending college and graduate school, and also led to an increase in the number of Native Americans in professional and managerial positions. Asian Americans, not so much. And you know what the kicker is behind that? There were some of the main ones, like some of the the ones that sat in those positions, high position was fighting against affirmative action. And I'm like, well, how do you fight against something that never really hurts you? Like I see up top Asian Americans everywhere, and this ain't me saying something to be prejudiced or discriminate against anybody or anybody outside of Black or Hispanic. But to me, I think it's again BS. Because if I look up in my company, not my company, but in companies in general, and I see Asian people, I see white people, and I see Indian people, how are you in support of a bill to say that, affirmative action isn't needed anymore because we have people that's sitting up in those positions? Like, for example, you have Edward Bloom. He's a white male. Now, he's a conservative activist who has been vocal about getting rid of affirmative action. He a founder of the Project on Fair Admissions, which is a group that is challenging affirmative action policies in the court. Of course, this is a white man. This is a white man. He doesn't know what it feels like to be discriminated against. He doesn't know what it feels like to have racism put against him. Now he can say, "Oh, nowadays, people are discriminated against white guys." Again, the data does not support that at all. It doesn't support that at all. So then you have John Yoo. He is a law professor at the University of California, Berkeley. He's a conservative legal scholar who's written extensively on affirmative action and getting rid of it. Then you have Amy Chu. She's a law professor at Yale University. She's the author of the book Battle Hymn of the Tiger Mother, which is about her experience in raising her children as a Chinese American. Then you have Dinesh D'Souza. He's a conservative commentator and author. He's an Indian guy. Again, you got a whole country. And what pisses me off about a lot of these people that's been supporting this bill, or it's not a bill, the policy of it being struck down, is you weren't affected by it. Matter of fact, even as an Asian American, they even hunted your own people down, put you in concentration camps here in the US of A. They did that to you and your people here. But still, at the end of the day, you have a whole country. You have a whole country that you could stay in if you wanted to. And I'm not saying go back to your country. I'm not saying that. Please don't say I'm saying it at all. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying you have a whole country that where your people exist at, where you can do whatever you want to do over there. You can achieve whatever goals you want to achieve over there. Matter of fact, you can trace back your lineage of where you come from. We don't have that. Black people don't have that. Yeah, we got Africa, we got a whole continent, but we don't have that at all. like even when it comes to Indians, they have a whole country they can go back to where they have institutions there. They can get they can get educated in their own country without worry about discrimination. Or I mean, it might be hard. I've read that it's harder to get into some of the colleges in their country that have to be like super qualified, but still at the end of the day it exists. Now we do have HBCUs here now. We do. But people, again, they're trying to strip some of the stuff that we can do in those HBCUs, especially in education. I mean, look at Florida. They're trying to strip some of the stuff that we can teach in our own institutions. And the only reason we started our own education institutions is because we could not get into the other ones now. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I feel as though when it comes to affirmative action, it's still needed. Now, I also feel as though I'm tired of seeing us at the point at the point in time now. I'm tired of seeing us complain about and asking other people to give us breadcrumbs. I really am tired of that. So, I mean, especially when it comes to how qualified we are. I mean, we're multifaceted individuals, and it's not to say that nobody else is. Everybody. I mean, everybody has different skill sets, and you're not just specialized on one thing. Everybody have different skill sets. But when it specifically comes to Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, is we have skill sets in those positions that we're companies that we're trying to get into. And at this point in time now, I think it's time for us to start our own. And I don't understand why we aren't. We have a lot of qualified, we have a lot of money within our own personal communities to where we can start our own tech companies. I mean, we can start our own production companies outside of Tyler Perry Studios and some of the other places there. We can start more of our own networks. We can do those things. I mean, and I think that it's at this stage in life now, I mean, we need to. I mean, because we keep asking other people to accept us into their places, we need to start our own. I mean, I'd hate to even be that way, but at the end of the day, if we can't get what we want from the country that we helped build, then we need to do our own things and just work it from that avenue. And I know, my people would be like, well, every time we've tried, they tore it down. They have, but today's a different day. You're not tearing nothing. You're not tearing stuff down today. Today is a totally different day. This is not this is not my grandparents' time. This is a different time. You're not running up into my house tearing my stuff down because I'm doing something and I'm doing better than you. That's just not happening no more. Because I am, as progressive I am, I'm a Second Amendment person. I'm gonna put it just like that. And I want us to be successful in all that we do, and I want us to start creating the companies that I think we have the skill sets to do now. I mean, even when it comes to anime, I'm a big anime person. We've been complaining there's not a lot of diversity when it comes to anime, and I'm not mad at it. When it comes to that, I'm really not mad at it, because when you're creating anime, you're creating in a form of content, you're gonna create it on the people that you see. That's why I don't get mad at things like that. Even when it comes to, there's a new game out called Final Fantasy 16. Final Fantasy is a Square Enix franchise game. It's been out for years. I'm a huge fan of Final Fantasy. Been playing it since I was a kid. And people were getting upset because they didn't see any Black people in the Final Fantasy game. I honestly do not care about that. I don't care about that. I'm not looking for anybody to give me anything when it comes to something they're building themselves. It could be their own people. I don't care when it comes to things of that nature, because we have the skill sets to build them ourselves too. So I'm not looking for somebody to give me something and something they're building especially when they live in a totally different country. I don't care about those things, especially when it comes to animation. I don't care about those things because we have the skills to do it. We might not have the funding like they do, but everybody got to start from somewhere. So at the end of the day, my feelings when it comes to affirmative actions is I'm getting tired of lawmakers attacking minorities, attacking Black business, attacking the Black community. And you can tell me all day long that they're not doing that, but I'm sorry, the proof is in the pudding. Everything that they're doing shows they're attacking what we built to allow us to be able to get into places that we have not been able to get into before. And I don't understand how those that are saying it's not needed anymore are not those from the communities that's been discriminated against. I mean, at the end of the day, they're not. People can tell you all day long that, people say racist things against Indian Americans, or Indians in general. They might. I mean, they might. I mean, people are prejudiced. People say stuff about people all day, every day. They do. But when I look at the numbers and when I look at where these people that are supposedly being attacked racially against, it don't support that. Because if I'm looking in, again, corporate jobs, or I'm looking in blue collar jobs, I'm seeing a ton of Indian people in there. I'm seeing a ton of Asian people in there. I definitely see white people in there. So I'm like, and when I go to expensive parts of town, especially where I work in the expensive part of town. I don't live over there because I can't afford to live over there. When I go over there, that's what I see. So I don't, this whole affirmative action thing, them striking down the LGBTQ, saying it's okay to discriminate against those in the LGBTQ plus community. I don't know where we're going at. I honestly don't. I've lost hope for humanity, and it's sad to say, a long time ago. I really have. And the only thing I want to do is make sure that, I can get a successful business going, and that I can do something, hand something down to my children. I don't have hope. I have faith that eventually things will get worked out. But as it stands now, when it comes to our lawmakers, and people can say all day long, well, we need to get out in, and I'm one of those people too. I get out and I get out and canvas. Y'all know I ran for office. I still talk to people about the importance of getting out to vote. But if you don't have any candidates, or you don't have enough people out there to support people, and or even the people you do support and you get them in the office, they themselves go against the people that help them get their constituents. So it's like, who do you trust then? If the very people that you help to get elected doesn't do anything to help you out, and they don't go by their campaign promises, your community leaders aren't really doing anything to really make change within your own community. You got to rely on the activists and people of that nature. And then your corporations are now rolling back the diversity and inclusion divisions, because especially now with this ruling, if you haven't looked around, look at some of the higher level companies that have let go of their executives, black people too, that sit in those diversity inclusion positions. If they're getting rid of those, they're banning books in institutions because it's teaching about the struggle of black Americans in this country. How much hope you want us to have? Like, how much faith? Well, I have faith, but how much hope do you want us to have when it comes to our officials or people that's supposed to be helping us out? So, I mean, I don't know. It's our interesting times we live in. I am ready for Bipple, but I'm ready for Bipple to learn about new technology. And y'all don't know who Bipple is. That's, it's aliens. It's a joke. It's a part of the Chappelle show. It was based after the movie that was a parody off the movie, or the comet that was striking the Earth movie. But yeah, I'm interested, but I'm not looking for them to be our savior. I'm just looking for the technology that comes along with that. So yeah, I don't. The conservative Supreme Court. I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, like I said, I hate making an episode about this, but I at least want to talk about it because it's nonsense. And I think that especially us Black Americans and Hispanic Americans are still being discriminated against. And I think it is what it is. So thank y'all for tuning in to this week's episode. I'm trying to get back on. I am trying to get back on track and get some guests lined up and do more interviews and stuff. I just needed a break. I really did needed a break. So thank y'all to my active listeners, however many it is. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. And I'll see y'all next week. So make sure, y'all get out in some of this sun. It's hot as hell outside, but still get out in this sun. And make sure, y'all make sure that you pay attention to things that's going on around you. Stay safe. Make sure you take your L's, your 3 L's every day. You live, love, laugh. Lead with your heart. Laugh about the things you have no control over. And just live for today, because tomorrow's not promised. So thank y'all for tuning in again. Matrix out.